Well, you were actually a really, really bad friend, Kyle. Because the reason your friend called you was, I want you to agree with me. It's the only time we call friends for advice, is when we know what we want, and then they have the audacity to tell us a better idea, and he's like, freaking Kyle doesn't get it. We're all guilty of it. We call our friends to validate what the hell we're thinking. And what we need to really realize is that here's something that I believe in. Well, two things. Number one, Kyle, I'm in the firm belief that there is something amazing called useful lies.
Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I'm very privileged to have I'm just going to say Umar, because that's his request. And he is a coach that doesn't suck.
Too badly.
But he's a mindset coach, and we're going to get to know him and have a great conversation and hopefully inspire someone out there to go for your dreams and don't give up on life. So, Umar, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am on an interesting journey in my life. Last year in April, I had this thought: Umar, have you made a difference in the world, an impact? And the unwelcome answer was no. Do people love me? Yeah. Do my clients like me? Absolutely. But have I made an impact? And so I said, okay, if I stay in this house, in my comfortable life with my comfortable clients and my two cats, is anything ever going to change? And the answer was no. So last May, I sold my house. I got rid of all the possessions, literally kept 10 t-shirts, 2 sweaters, 2 pairs of jeans, and hit the road traveling. And this is what I came up with at the end of the day, is a couple of thoughts. Number one, there is a better you inside you just waiting to come out. And it's your duty as a human being to make that happen. And it's my duty to help you find that better you, so you step out there and make the world a better place. And the second thing is, ultimately, at the end of the day, it sounds corny, but I think this is the ultimate truth, is that when I come to this interview, if I come to this interview with, I want to be entertaining and I want to be people to like me, and it's about ego, it's going to feel a different way. But if I came to this interview with, I want to drop down into a place of love, and I want to do the best I can do for everybody on the show. It's not about me. It's about how can I be of service. And you probably noticed that my tonality changed instantly when I did that. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, dear listener, dear viewer, and Kyle, is that when we step into that space of love, is something magical happens. You get to be yourself, and you get to interact with people in a more real way than we've done in the past.
And you have such a great voice. You could do the top 40 and take over from somebody else that used to do the top 40.
They're all old and dying. Maybe I'll have an opportunity soon. And the other secret to life is laugh, have fun, enjoy. And so I heard this thing a long time ago that was really impactful. Hopefully I can remember them. There were 5 keys to building a pretty amazing life. Number 1, you need to eat well. You need to exercise to stay strong. You need to sleep well. You need to have kick-ass amazing sex, because we're human beings and we're biologically, that's the number 1 directive that we have, is to procreate. And the best way we do that is by making love. So do that well, enjoy it. And the last one, which I think is probably the most important, is to have fun. And that gives you this foundation of this body to be at its peak performance. And then when you apply it to whatever you're applying it to, go into learning mode, master it, enjoy that journey, and magical things happen.
That's the key, is to have fun. It just seems like everything that we enjoy has kind of been destroyed lately. You know what I mean? Instead of just everybody coming together and having fun, it's almost like you have to pick a side. And I hate this.
Yeah,
I hate it.
But I think it's vitally important. And here's why I think it's vitally important. So I'm going to tell you a story first, and I'll tell you why I think this time is really important for us. is that this is an old joke that we've all heard. I'm going to say it again. It's a major flood comes, somewhere in the middle of the US, and, there's this guy stranded on his roof. And he's praying to God, God, come rescue me. And a boat comes up and the guy says, come on, I'll take you to shore. No, I don't want to come. I'm waiting for God. And 3 or 4 people come trying to help him. And then he finally drowns and gets to heaven and he goes, God, why didn't you help me? He said, I sent you 4 people and you said no. And by that, so hold that thought. Here's a second thought. Second thought is you get someone that needs to learn a lesson in life. Let's say the lesson is to let go of needing to be important and doing good work. Let's say that was a lesson, but they don't get it. So God sends another messenger. Like Umar is too dumb to get the freaking message. I said, Mother Teresa to go chat with him. Now I'm going to send somebody like the governor. Arnie's going to come, say, you're idiot, you do. And then it keeps on getting more intense. And at some point, if I don't learn, it gets down to me getting sick. And when I come to death's door, all of a sudden I reevaluate my life. So let's say we were talking about cancer. Kyle, do you know what they call it when you get better from cancer? They call it that your cancer is in
remission.
We don't use language accidentally. Think of the word remission. That the previous mission we had sucked. It was all about my ego, or I need to be important, or I need to do whatever. And then we get to death's door and we get a new mission in life. And that could be to be a loving human being. It could be to go write a book, or it could be to build an empire, whatever it is. You get this new mission. And the question I ask people is, did getting the new mission lead to the cancer going away? Or did you coming to death's door and embracing a new mission, and that gave you more life to go in the direction you want? It doesn't make a difference. So putting those two thoughts together and what's happening in today around the world, because if it was just happening in the US, you'd say, what a bunch of dicks. You got these people on this side, extremists, and that side, but that's not the only place. All around the world, strong men are coming to say, I will save you. The foreigners are the bad guys, or the other politicians are the bad guys. And I think the reason that's happening is that this is like us getting into cancer personally. This is for society to say, okay, make up your mind. What do you want to do? You can focus on what's happening on the outside, or you can work on what's happening on the inside. And by working on the inside, what I want you to do, if it makes sense to you, is to find the authentic Kyle. Because this authentic Kyle comes out to play once in a while. And when that happens, people go, oh my God, it's so nice to be around you. And for most of us, most of the time, we're pretending to be somebody smarter than we are. Or I'm tragic, nothing ever works, I'm a victim. That is the illusion we show the outside world. This is not us. Then we have something worse, which is the delusion. This is who I think I am. Like my wife would tell me, you're not as funny as you think you are. But anyway, so we got this thing that isn't accurate. But once you find the authentic you, then you don't have to pretend, think who you are, you know who you are. And when you get strong enough, this is who you portray to the outside world. So there's one person, when I'm on stage with 10,000 people in the audience, or alone with one person, it's the same person that shows up. And when you have a human being like that, people around them go, oh my God, it feels so safe being around you, because most of us are juggling these different versions of ourselves. So go find yourself. You don't have to go to a mountain to do this. Come to India.
9 out of 10 times, I'm pretty much, I'll take acceptance for whatever I've done wrong, and I'm a pretty strong person for the most part. But there is that occasional time where I'm like, God, I'm trying my best, and it seems like everything is going against me. And then I get in that I feel sorry for myself mode. But I will admit, it doesn't last very long. But it will creep up from time to time.
So can we play with that for a second, Kyle?
Sure.
Can you think of a particular time in the last week, the last month, the last year, where you had one of those moments where things just got out of hand and you felt like, what the hell? Can you go back to one of those specific moments?
Yeah, Saturday night, as a matter of fact.
So, dear viewers and listeners, I'd like you to go on this journey with us with whatever that thing is for you. So, Kyle, in your mind's eye, I want you to go back to that moment on Saturday night, and I want you to see whatever you saw back then, and hear whatever was going on, inner thoughts, music, the conversation with the other person. When you do those two things, you get to re-experience what you were feeling in your body. when that negativity was going on? Where in your body did you feel that uncomfortableness? Chest, stomach?
I would have to say it was in my chest.
Okay, so go back there and so see what you saw back then, hear what you heard back then, and notice where in your chest you feel that uncomfortable feeling. And I want you to place your hand there for a moment, wherever you feel uncomfortable. And I want you to ask this one amazing question of that feeling. The first thing I want you to say is hello. When you say hello, notice that that feeling says hello back inside your mind for a moment. Just go hello.
Hello.
And do you get a hello back?
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Yeah. So just ask this feeling, what are you trying to teach me? What do you want me to pay attention to? So what did it want you to pay attention to last Saturday?
And this is what I truly believe. It was that moment of, where am I going to take my stand, and why am I letting things get to me when they shouldn't? There's things that happen. Well, let me go back.
Sure.
So I believe it was Friday. I had an interview with the lady who she's actually going to die. She doesn't
Yes.
have very much time left to live, and she's trying to get her story out there, and she's trying to bring awareness to the disease that she has, and hopefully help other people. And I was very inspired, but it was very draining on me. I mean, I have not felt that worn out, and I don't know how long, because I felt so much for this lady.
Mhm.
And I I want this message to get out so badly. And it just seemed like one thing after another started going wrong right after that. Because, I think the universe was testing me.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not going to complain about anything else again after everything this lady's gone through. And the universe said, oh, yeah? Well, let's
Let me
see.
show you. So that's actually a really big insight. So here's what I wanted to share with people is this. It turns out that we have 86 billion neurons. Someone actually counted them. They got a cubic centimeter of brain material, and they actually freaking counted 1, 2, 3. So that's an accurate number. And the processing power of our mind is so immense that our conversation right now, I'm probably speaking at 120 words a minute. And so there's a small percentage of your mind paying attention to what I'm saying. The rest of it is thinking about other things that are happening in your life or could happen. And so most of us aren't really physically here, we're elsewhere.
Right.
And so when you ask, this is going on, this lady, what's going on? Our mind, a superpower that we all have, that you may be like a black belt in, is rationalizing. And if you break that word up as well, rational lies that we tell ourselves. So humans are meaning-making machines. When shit happens, we make meaning out of it, and our brain has so much access power that it makes all these meanings. And some of them just align with who we are as human beings, which means that we're taking the truth and we're rejigging it to validate our worldview, whatever that is. But your body never lies. So when you have an uncomfortable feeling come up, listen to your body, not what your mind's telling you. And one of the things I find is just putting my hand wherever it happens to be, and then just going hello to the feeling and just going, all right, what's the lesson you're trying to teach me? And an answer comes up. And when the answer comes up, you don't have to believe it totally, but you can get your mind back in and say, well, is it the things you've been telling me, or is it this? And most of the time the mind will go, well, okay, it's that thing. And so what happened, that circumstance might have been where you basically get confronted with, the reality of who you are. And so that was a learning lesson that you got to experience. And we all have them. And the only problem is most of us miss it, that we just rationalize, oh, those people are bad people. They don't get me. They don't value what I teach. They're caught up in their own world, or whatever BS we tell ourselves. And so if no feeling comes up, don't worry about it. Just go live your life. But if an uncomfortable feeling comes up while you're having these thoughts, check in with the feeling. It's there for a reason.
Oh, yeah. Well, also at that particular moment, I had two people very close to me in my life, and they're not making the best decisions. And when you have to let go,
Yeah.
because you can't control other people's lives, that they have to make these decisions. You can give advice, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to take your advice. 99.9% of the advice you give out, people don't want to listen. It's whatever they've decided they're going to do.
Well, you were actually a really, really bad friend, Kyle. Because the reason your friend called you was, I want you to agree with me. It's the only time we call friends for advice, is when we know what we want, and then they have the audacity to tell us a better idea. And he's like, freaking Kyle doesn't get it. We're all guilty of it. We call our friends to validate what the hell we're thinking. And what we need to really realize is that here's something that I believe in. Well, two things. Number one, Kyle, I'm in the firm belief that there is something amazing called useful lies. Like there is almost no such thing as the truth, because it's all perception from different points of view. And when Einstein came up with the theory of relativity, it's a model. We've actually proven some of that not to be true, and we still invented cell phones and space travel and all those things. So here's what we need to really do is just very much, one is that the reason we have 8 billion people almost on in this planet is not to make this a crowded space, is to let dim-witted people like me see ourselves in the people around us. And some people are so irritating. So dear listeners, think of someone that drives you freaking nuts, that, you wouldn't like take a knife and stab them in the heart, but you want to. So here's what I want you to do. And Kyle, you can be our guinea pig, because you're the host, is think of someone that really irritates you, and then think about what's the attribute they have that you find so offensive. And I guarantee 100% that you have an element of that attribute within you. And the reason they're there is to show you, dude, you've got it in you. And you may have it this big and they've got it this big, or vice versa. But so one of the things I do is when I meet someone that I really admire and I go, oh my God, I really admire that person, I ask, what attribute do they have that I really like? And then I know with certainty I've got that attribute within me. Could be smaller, it could be larger. And the flip side, which is like the irritating side, when you see someone that drives you nuts, and it's like, what attribute do they have? Then know with certainty you got it within you. And I guarantee once you heal that negative attribute in yourself, that person that used to drive you crazy will stop driving you crazy, because they're not here to teach you a lesson anymore. You've learned it and you've moved on. Do you think that's crazy talk, or do you kind of think it's got some validity?
Well, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. So I can't imagine anybody having, those attributes that I think I have some valid reasons for this one person that really annoys me.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the way the universe works. And oftentimes there's valid things. But I heard this thing once. There's somebody way smarter than me. It's a Tibetan thing. It's like these two monks are walking down, doing God's work. And there's this woman that's trying to cross the river. And this monk basically offers to give her a lift her across the river. And he helps her across, and he's touching this woman, and they're not supposed to go for material things or physical wants. And the other monk is brooding for 10 miles. And then the monk who lifted the woman says, what's going on? Why are you so angry for the last 10 miles? You lifted that woman, and you were touching this woman, and you helped her go across, and we're on a mission, and you're flirting with this woman. He says, dear brother, I put the woman down 10 miles ago. You've still been carrying her. And that's what we do, right? We carry this stuff that we think is so important. That person did that, and I did this, and I wish I was a better person. And all of that is a lesson for us to learn. And if we could learn it easily, we would. And that's why there's people like you and me and other people in the world to teach people how to let that stuff go. And if you want to hear a story about that kind of stuff, I'd be more than happy to share one.
Please do.
So this woman was recommended to reach out to me, and Marisol, and there's a link we can put in the show notes of her testimonial, so you can kind of hear it from her. So she is a commercial realtor, and she said, I'm kind of struggling right now. And I said, oftentimes, childhood events sometimes, impact what we're doing now. And, we'll explore, see if it's one of those. She goes, well, it is one of those. I know what it is. And I go, huh, what is it? She goes, when I was 8, my father started sexually abusing me till I was 12. And just recently I found out that he did the same thing to my 2 daughters. From 8 to 12, he was abusing them. I had no idea. And that has just, my self-worth on, so this, what we discovered was part of her psyche is I can be a great realtor. I can make this thing work. I can support my family. I can do amazing things. But there was another part of her is you don't deserve, because of what had happened in the past. So in the first session, we kind of resolved that conflict. Second session, we went in and resolved what happened, what meaning she made out of that sexual abuse. And on the third session, we basically showed her how to remove fear. And on her testimonial, the only way she can describe it is, I feel freaking amazing. And my kids are asking me, what's wrong, Mom? She goes, what do you mean, what's wrong? They're like, well, normally you're yelling at us all the time, and you're not yelling at us this entire week. Like what's wrong? And she says, it's just changed something profoundly inside me. And I think that's what we need to realize is when we go from being okay to being, this is a technical, scientific term, I'm not sure your listeners know about it, is being screwed up. When that happens, it's not the 3 years of abuse, it's one moment. Or it could be that you'd be shocked how many teachers have said this to kids, elementary school kids. It's like, Kyle, you're not going to amount to anything. It's like, what kind of psychotic teacher would say that to an 8-year-old kid? So it could be an event like that or something your parents did. And all of a sudden we went from being okay, I can do anything, to I'm broken. And then this goes for the entire life. What I want people to know is this: we went from state A to state B, not in 6 years. It could have been 6 years of abuse, but it's one moment when that happened where you made a different meaning about yourself. That happened in a second. We've got the technology now to help you go from being not okay to okay, not in 8 months of therapy, but we can do it in a moment. And when that change happens, it frees you and it lets you let go of the past. It gives you the energy you need to build a life that you want, because it's your responsibility, dear viewers and listeners. There's a better you inside you. And our journey in life is all about that, uncovering that best version of yourself. And when you do that, you have more drive, more passion, more certainty. And when you come to play, you bring your best self without ego and to help the people around you. And when you do that, it's not about ego, it's about you shining in this world. And when you shine in this world, what you end up doing is giving permission to all the people around you to go, you know what? Maybe I can do that too. Because most people have a death grip on their reality, and nothing you do can remove it. But when you shine, you allow them to loosen their grip on their reality, and they see the possibility of change. And that's all you can do for people, is show them the possibility of change. And sometimes getting unstuck from that rigid space is all they need, because they all have hopes, dreams, and desires.
I can tell you, I've been through the same thing. I don't think it affects me as badly as it used to.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have a breakdown. And gosh, how long has it been? But it's about 10 years ago. I ended up in the hospital because
Wow.
of it. And everything from when I was a kid just all came out at the same time. Whenever I have someone like you who comes on and we talk about it, it's as if each time what I do, it gets less and less powerful.
Yeah, the past.
Yeah, I don't feel that same way I used to feel, like a victim. But there's still something holding me back, and I've yet to figure out what that is.
So we all have that, and that's what I do day in, day out, is help people get through their conscious mind down below to figure out what that block is that stops them. And we all have a gift, and the reason I have my gift is oftentimes it's our childhood. So when I was 13, 14, my mom committed suicide. She was in a different country. And as a little kid, like 14 years old isn't really a kid, I made a decision somewhere deep down that if I was there to help her, things would have been different. Of course, it's not true. but that need to help got really instilled deeply. And in 2003 is when I said, okay, I need to give up my career in high tech and focus on brain tech to help people do that. So this is a calling, this is a mission from childhood. And a friend of mine described it as being a wounded warrior. You get wounded when you're young, and then that becomes your mission. And so that's why I do what I do. And this journey from selling my house and going on a quest, one of the things that was really bothering me is I know how to help a lot of other people, but I sensed deep down, because I've done a lot of work on myself, that there is a fear deep down that I can't even touch or feel, that I need to figure out what that is. And when I get over that, it's going to change the way I show up in life. And I ended up doing that. I ended up working out a new way of accessing deep states of being. And when I removed that fear, it's been a game changer. Here's one of the examples of it. It's kind of silly, is that we're having an interview and you say something and part of it is a lyric from a song. And in the past, I may have noticed that. Now I want to break out in song, and I got a terrible voice and I'm singing all the time. And it's like, life is a masquerade or whatever that is. And it's just been a joyousness coming out. And what I discovered was that the deepest fear that I had, and it took a while to get there, to find it, is one that's fairly common. It's like, you're not good enough. And for me, if you looked at my accomplishments, nobody would say you're not good enough. It's like, why would you say that? But it doesn't matter about what's happening in reality. It's what's deep down installed within our psyche. And so we're all on a journey. And one of the examples I give people is this. It doesn't matter what religion you are. If you happen to be a Christian, you think Jesus was the son of God. If you happen to be somebody else, you think special human being, prophet, whatever. But, way more advanced than schmucks like you and I. Even at his end days, his end times, he's at the Garden of Gethsemane. I'm probably mispronouncing it. He's got this thought. And here comes another song. Should I stay or should I go now?
The
Stay, there
Clash.
will be trouble. Sure enough, and he's got doubts. And if he's like the chosen one and he's got doubts, you and I got a long way to go. And so it's just a matter of, as we move forward, when we come across those areas where we're less than, what we're trained to do is to shut down and go, oh my God, I'm so terrible. It's like to rejoice when you find those things. Rejoice. Say, okay, here's another thing I get to work on to help uncover it, because underneath that is something amazing. And that's our journey. It's never going to end. It's just when you get the big ones, when you get this big one and we break you through it, you're going to be like light years ahead, but there's still going to be other layers later on, and they'll be less and less severe, but still as valid. When I'm like 92, it'll be like, oh my God, when I was meeting that person, I felt this anxiety coming up. I wonder what that was all about. And then something will come up. It's like, oh, you got another layer of blockage. So just embrace it. And you just need the technology to remove it. And when we remove it, you just accelerate to the next level. It's a journey of becoming better and better as we go.
Oh, those self-doubts, that definitely is something that creeps up a lot.
Yeah.
And I can't, I don't see what other people see. I'll put it that way. My wife tells me how wonderful I am and how handsome I am, and I'm still, I still think of myself as that geeky fat kid from junior high.
Yeah. Do you want to do an experiment?
Sure, why not?
All right. Kyle, take a deep breath in, hold it for 3 seconds, and slowly let it out. And take another deep breath in, hold it for 3 seconds. And as you let it out, just let any tension or tightness out of your body. And one last breath in, hold it for 3 seconds, and let go of any emotions or sensations that don't belong. And just listen to the sound of my voice for a minute. And I want you to just imagine you're sitting in a cottage in this room. And as you're sitting there, there's a chair before you that's empty. And as you're looking at the chair that's empty before you, I want you to invite that younger, geekier self from all those years back to sit right in front of you. And as that younger you is there, I'm going to call it Kylie, just to give it a different name than you. So Kyle, I want you to ask little Kyle, what is the one truth that I need to know that would set me free? And just listen to what that is. And when you have it, let me know.
Okay.
What did little Kyle say?
So you were going to change.
Yeah. And the reason you and I are talking is I'm going to be the person that's probably destined to help you change. And so reach out. It'll be my privilege to help you. We'll do a proper session or two, and I'll help you make peace with the past.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
My pleasure. And either it's going to be totally brilliant, in which case, you'll think I walk on water, or you'll think I'm full of shit. But we'll find out Tuesday.
That's how I kind of feel about the audience. They either love me or they're going to think I'm full of it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that you kind of saw me do there was to make you laugh. And I think very much when we go down this serious work, if you're like, oh, this is really serious and I got to do it right and I got to remove this and save my life, when we're in that stuckness, it's harder to change. When we go into play mode in life, we're just having fun. When we go into play mode, magic happens. Because I'll tell you something that pisses me off. Dear listeners and viewers, this is what pisses me off. I'm doing an interview with someone on my podcast, sitting down with this guy who's totally brilliant. We finish the interview. I turn everything off. And then the guy goes, should I have told you about the time I lost everything and I had to stay in a $6 a day motel? And in a year, I became a millionaire again. It's like, yes, you should have told me on the interview. But think about that. Here's somebody that's really accomplished. But when the recorder was recording, another version of them came up and we had a great interview. And they were more self-conscious about what they're saying. And as soon as I stopped recording, then their real self comes out. And then there was like, oh, this is a really interesting story that I normally don't share, that I want to share with you. And so we're all like that. What we need to realize is that we are human beings. We're learning as we go. There's going to be other roadblocks that come up. We can be afraid of them and shy away from them. No, I'm going to hide, or I'm going to have this bravado and pretend that it's not happening. Because sometimes the most boastful people are people that are really broken. And that's the way they kind of handle it. And then other people go on the other extreme, which is like, it's no point, nothing will ever work. And I want you to feel sorry for me. And that sorriness and you coming to rescue me allows me to function. But the reality is that what happens when fear comes up? Bam, there's fear. When fear comes up, we are conditioned to, fight or flight. And we shut down. We either run away or we shut down. And what fight or flight was always meant to do was, Kyle, you are a lump of meat who's kind of useless sitting here right now. If there was a strange noise behind you, that instantly you go into fight or flight. And when that happens, adrenaline floods your body. So you get the strength you need to take action. You get cat-like reflexes. You get the ability, all the blood rushes to where you need it to survive. You have the ability to focus on one thing and one thing only where the danger is. You have the ability to be hurt and not feel pain. So when fear comes up, we are at the physical best selves, and we've trained ourselves to shut down, when in reality, we've got the energy we need to move ahead and make shit happen. And so that's what we need to do, is to teach people how to harness fear, because it was always meant to be the battery, the capacitor that supercharges you to let you do your very best. In the past to survive, but now, baby, you could thrive. Go build a business. Go fall in love. That woman that you've been with, that you love, go make her feel loved. I mean, go do something freaking amazing. Why are you listening to us? Hang up and go do something freaking amazing.
No, keep listening. Keep listening.
Yeah. Keep listening.
I have the energy to roll out of my chair if that's
nice.
Anything.
Yep.
So yeah. No, I'll tell you. My grandfather has always been an inspiration to me, and he passed away a few years ago, and it was very deflating for me. But
oh yeah,
Grandpa always had a great attitude, He was paralyzed from the waist down, but he taught himself to walk. Now
Wow.
he stumbled when he walked, but he still walked. And he had went to the doctor one day, and he was a little ahead of my grandmother, and he's stumbling down the hall. This lady comes up and tells my grandma, is he drunk? My grandpa heard it, and
Yeah.
some people would get offended, but grandpa turned around and said, I wished I was, I'd get over this in the morning. But that was his attitude.
It's all mindset. Yeah, absolutely. It's like brilliant.
And I ended up getting a disease in my spine where my bones are deteriorating, and it's limited a lot of things for me. I went from using a cane to being in a wheelchair to having surgery, back to the cane, but I'm going back to the wheelchair again. But it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
It really
You
doesn't.
wish you could stumble. I wish I could stumble like Granddad. That would be such a huge thing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it's very much, you hear these idiots on TV, like Michael J. Fox. He's got Parkinson's, and he's basically saying this is the best thing that ever happened to me. And a lot of people that are famous that have had these tragic events because it got them to see within and see what's most important in their lives.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, sure, I lost this ability to do this, but what it awakened me to go is I've got these amazing people that I love around, or I got this mission in life. So yeah, it's all mindset. And so I'm going to teach one last thing before we part company today. It's called the power of the mask. And so I was coaching this salesperson. And so I said, when you're talking to customers, describe, hey, when you talk about your company, tell me what you tell them. I'm not going to tell you what he exactly says, but this is what I heard. Oh, my name's Steven, and we do boring, 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 and more boring, and extra boring, and even more boring. And I went, okay, your boss, Chip, he's pretty articulate and pretty passionate. I want you to put on his mask. When you got the mask on there, I want you to tell me as Chip what your company does. We're a financial company that is elegant poetry came out of his mouth. So keep in mind, it's the same person. He's not doing some devil's work channeling Chip in, is that we know this stuff. And so this is what I want you to do, dear listeners and viewers. That one area where you struggle, I want you to figure out who in your life that you know, could be like a friend or your coach from like a grade 10 football, or it could be somebody you know of is like, man, that Mark Cuban guy is freaking awesome. Who that is for you, whether you know them or you know of them, put on their mask and be them for a moment when you interact. It's a lot like the pretend as if, but there's something about using the mask analogy that allows people to do it easily. And that is a technique that works really, really well. And it just shows you have more capacity within you than you'd possibly ever imagine. Kyle, thanks so much for having me on the show. This was like delightful.
Oh, sure. Now, do you have a website?
I do. A couple of things. Number one, if people have made it all the way to the end here, is it's called Mindset Boosters. And I'm just releasing an app October 1st. It's going to be a web app. So you can do it on the phone or the computer. And it allows you to decide how you want to feel or act in any situation. So for example, if you felt like today, it's like, oh, I don't feel that great. And you've got an important meeting coming up and you want to feel unstoppable, you listen to a track and it reprograms your mind, shows you how to crank up unstoppableness so you can go through a brick wall. Or you need to feel love today. You can actually listen to a track that'll show you how to open up your heart so the love comes in. 55 tracks that allow you to be freaking fantastic whenever and wherever you want. If you need to change how you want to feel or think, it's in the palm of your hand, baby. Mindset Boosters.
Sweet. What's the website called?
Mindsetboosters.com. And we'll
Okay.
put it in the show notes.
Yes.
And there's several versions you can get it. There's a free version where you get 2 tracks in every category. And the categories go from, overcoming anxiety to motivation and confidence. And
Nice.
that's my journey, is to help people switch on awesomeness whenever and whenever they want.
And what all social media are you on?
So we're on Instagram, Facebook. If you go into Google, put in my name. The first 2 articles are lies. Only kidding. They're good. And we'll put the links in the show notes. Join me on Instagram. And there's some groups on Facebook where all we do is just teach people techniques to be freaking fantastic. They're free. And that's my mission in life, is to empower you, dear listeners, to become your best self.
Appreciate that, man. We're here to pump you up, right? If anybody remembers that reference. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And I also want to thank all of y'all out there. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe, please come back. And for those of you who have been supporting us, thank you for that. It's because of you I get to do this. So until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network